It's January 2026, and China's second most powerful military officer just vanished. Not retired. Not reassigned. Vanished. But here's where it gets wild. Before he disappeared, this general allegedly left behind a secret letter that reads like a political thriller. We're talking accusations of dictatorship, warnings about World War III, and claims that China's leader had a health crisis so severe it nearly derailed an entire government meeting. This is the most dramatic political cage match in modern Chinese history, Xi Jinping versus Zhang Youxia. And this story has more twists than a pretzel factory. Stick around, because by the end, you'll understand why this isn't just about two powerful men, it's about the future of the world's second largest economy, and possibly, the safety of Taiwan. On January 24, 2026, China dropped a bombshell. Zhang Youxia, basically the number 2 in China's entire military apparatus, was suddenly under investigation for serious violations of discipline and law. Let me translate what the Chinese Communist Party says. That's code for, this person is in deep trouble. When someone of Zhang's stature gets investigated, it typically means house arrest, prison, or worse. Here's what makes this bonkers: Zhang Youxia wasn't just any general. This was Xi Jinping's supposed best friend in the military. Their fathers fought side by side during the Chinese Civil War. They're both princelings, sons of revolutionary heroes. Zhang was supposed to be Xi's most loyal ally, his military enforcer, his right-hand man. Think of it this way. Imagine if the US president arrested his vice president, secretary of defense, and chairman of the Joint Chiefs all rolled into one person. That's the magnitude we're talking about. So what the hell happened? How do you go from someone's most trusted military advisor to being investigated for serious violations, practically overnight? There are these videos floating around comparing Zhang's behavior toward Xi at 2 different government meetings, one from 2024, another from 2025. In the 2024 footage, when she walks into the room, Zhang immediately stops what he's doing, turns around, and respectfully watches the boss walk by. Classic subordinate behavior. Standing at attention, hands at sides, eyes following Xi's every move. Textbook Chinese political etiquette. But fast forward to 2025, same setting, same scenario. She walks in, and guess what Zhang does? Absolutely nothing. He keeps packing his stuff, barely glances at Xi, doesn't even turn around. While everyone else is bowing and scraping, Zhang is literally treating Xi like he's invisible. In Chinese political culture, this is the equivalent of giving someone the middle finger on live television. Let me put this in perspective. In China's political system, body language is everything. Officials study seating arrangements like they're reading tea leaves. They analyze who stands where, who shakes hands with whom, and for how long. There's an entire industry of Zongnanhai watchers scrutinizing every detail to gauge political power dynamics. So when a vice chairman of the Central Military Commission publicly disrespects the general secretary, that's not just unusual, that's a declaration of war. The question is, why would Zhang take such an enormous risk? To understand how we got here, we need to rewind. Zhang Youxia and Xi Jinping weren't just political allies, their families were deeply intertwined in Communist Party history. Zhang's father was a founding general of the People's Republic. Xi's father worked alongside Zhang's dad in the Revolutionary Wars. These weren't just colleagues, they were comrades who literally fought and bled together in battles that shaped modern China. When Xi started his rise to power in 2012, he faced a huge problem. The military wasn't really his, it belonged to the previous generation. Xi needed someone he could absolutely trust, someone whose loyalty was guaranteed not just by political convenience but by blood, history, and family honor. Enter Zhang Youxia. Unlike many generals who'd spent careers in Beijing offices shuffling papers, Zhang had actual combat experience from the Sino-Vietnamese War in the 1980s. He was one of the few high-ranking officers who'd actually seen real warfare, not just military parades. This combination, revolutionary pedigree plus real military credibility, made Zhang invaluable. So she promoted him. In 2017, Zhang became vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, essentially the second highest military position in all of China. And in 2022, when most people Zhang's age, 72, would be retiring, but she kept him on for another term. Virtually unprecedented. At the time, analysts saw this as brilliant. She had secured the military. He had a trusted ally who could execute his vision. Together, they purged hundreds of corrupt officers, restructured the entire military command system, and massively increased defense spending. This seemed like an unbreakable alliance. What could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, pretty much everything. But somewhere between 2022 and 2025, something went catastrophically wrong. According to multiple reports, Zhang and Xi started clashing on virtually everything. Screaming matches behind closed doors, passive-aggressive statements in meetings, complete breakdown in trust. First, there was the Taiwan issue. Xi has been increasingly aggressive about reunifying Taiwan, even setting a 2027 deadline for military readiness. Massive resources poured into amphibious assault capabilities, cyber warfare units, and naval expansion specifically for a Taiwan scenario. But Zhang? He reportedly thought this was insane. According to leaked sources, Zhang argued that Taiwan's defenses were second only to Israel's, that the US, Japan, and Australia would definitely intervene, and that the Chinese military simply wasn't ready for that kind of prolonged, multi-front conflict. There's even a story, unconfirmed but widely circulated, that during one planning session, Zhang allegedly told Xi point-blank, "Chairman, we can take Taiwan. But we'll lose half our navy doing it, sanctions will collapse our economy, and we might trigger World War III. Is that really what you want your legacy to be?" You can imagine how well that went over. Second, the endless purges. Since Xi took power, he's arrested literally hundreds of high-ranking military officials on corruption charges. But Zhang allegedly argued that she was destroying military morale and creating a climate of fear that made effective command impossible. Zhang reportedly warned they were creating a military of yes men, great for parades, terrible for actual warfare. Third, and this is crucial, the power dynamic itself. Zhang reportedly believed she had twisted civilian control into a personal dictatorship where he micromanaged everything, from major strategic decisions down to battalion-level deployments, and refused to listen to professional military advice. For a professional military man like Zhang, this was intolerable. After Zhang was arrested, a mysterious letter started circulating online, allegedly written by Zhang himself with instructions to release it publicly if he was taken down. Is it real? Nobody knows for sure. But the letter's contents align eerily well with everything we've heard about the Xi-Zhang conflict. In this letter, Zhang allegedly admits he could have staged a military coup but refused because he feared civil war, accuses Xi of turning China into North Korea, warns that she wants to attack Taiwan and establish martial law, urges Xi to step down at the next party congress, reveals that she suffered a health crisis during a major government meeting. The most explosive claim? During the third plenum meeting, Xi got so angry during an argument with Zhang about Taiwan that he literally got sick and had to be hospitalized. According to the letter, party elders had to step in to mediate, and this was all kept secret. Whether this letter is genuine or fake, the fact that it's being widely circulated tells us something important. People in China are hungry for narratives where powerful figures stand up to Xi Jinping. Here's where things get really interesting. After Zhang was arrested, you'd expect the Chinese military to immediately fall in line, right? Official statements of support, denouncements of the fallen general, the usual choreographed loyalty display. Except, that didn't happen. As of early February 2026, China's three major military regions, the Navy, Air Force, Rocket Force, basically every major military division, has been completely silent. No official statements. No public support for Xi's decision. No condemnations of Zhang. In Chinese politics, this is deafening. According to insiders, the Central Military Commission sent out at least 2 directives ordering military units to publicly support the investigation. The response? Cricket sounds. Some units allegedly outright refused. Others just ignored the orders entirely. One source described it as a complete breakdown of the command chain. Orders are being sent from the top, but nobody down below is listening. Several analysts have suggested something absolutely stunning, that China now effectively has 2 competing power centers. On one side, you have Xi Jinping's official government. On the other side, you have what some are calling the anti-Xi coalition, a loose alliance of party elders, military figures, and possibly some current Politburo members who've had enough. This isn't just personal beef. This is about China's most powerful political dynasties positioning themselves for what comes next. China isn't just ruled by the Communist Party, it's ruled by a handful of incredibly powerful families whose patriarchs founded the People's Republic. Think Chinese political royalty. Let's start with probably the most important one, the Deng Xiaoping family. Deng was basically China's leader from the late 1970s to 1990s, credited with opening up China's economy and lifting hundreds of millions out of poverty. But here's the thing, Xi's father and Deng Xiaoping hated each other. Deep, personal, generational hatred. Back in the 1950s and 60s, Deng was instrumental in persecuting Xi's father during political purges. Xi's dad spent 16 years under house arrest and investigation. The Xi family suffered tremendously. Young Xi Jinping was sent to the countryside for re-education, living in a cave, doing hard labor. His sister reportedly committed suicide during this period. And perhaps most painfully, Xi arrested Deng's granddaughter's husband, a billionaire named Wu Xiaowei, on corruption charges and seized over 80 billion renminbi of their wealth. Deng's granddaughter reportedly suffered a nervous breakdown and considered becoming a Buddhist nun. You think the Deng family forgot that? They're sitting back, watching Xi struggle with Zhang, probably thinking, karma's coming for you. But the Deng clan isn't the only one potentially making moves. There's the Qinyuan family, the Yi Jianying family, the Jiang Zemin clan, and Wang Qishan, all positioning, all watching, all waiting. But here's the terrifying question, what if Xi, feeling cornered, decides to gamble everything on a Taiwan invasion? Think about it from his perspective, he's facing potential overthrow, his legacy is threatened, and he's got this massive military he's been building up for years. Dictators facing domestic crises have historically started foreign wars to rally nationalist support. Zhang Youxia reportedly opposed attacking Taiwan because he knew the military wasn't ready. But with Zhang gone, who's left to tell Xi no? This is why the rest of the world is watching so carefully. We're not just talking about internal Chinese politics, we're talking about potential global conflict. Where does the Zhang Youxia saga end? Honestly, we don't know. This story is still unfolding, with new reports emerging weekly, sometimes daily. What we do know, the Chinese Communist Party is facing its biggest internal crisis since 1989. Military instability, elite factionalism, and economic stress. Historically, these three ingredients together spell regime change. Xi Jinping came to power promising the Chinese dream, national rejuvenation and global leadership. For a while, it seemed to be working. Right now? It looks more like a nightmare of paranoia, purges, and potential conflict. Zhang Youxia represents something important, the limits of authoritarian control. You can't purge your way to stability forever. You can't arrest everyone who disagrees with you. Eventually, the system breaks. And here's the scary part, we don't know what that looks like when it breaks in a country as large and powerful as China. These aren't hypothetical scenarios anymore. They're real possibilities that governments worldwide are actively planning for.